Welcome to How We Grow, an essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz, with your host, Lynell Gordon. Welcome to How We Grow, the Vacation Rental Show. I'm very excited to have with us Fred Booth. And I'm saying your name right?
Yes, you are.
Because sometimes, it's really important, I think, that you say somebody's name right. So, Fred, how long have you been in the industry?
We started renting out our home on Airbnb back in 2014. So really full-time in the industry, only 2 years, and part-time 4 years. But we've been Airbnb hosts and travelers since 2014.
The reason I wanted to talk to you and the reason I asked you on the show is because you've been wildly successful. That's a short time in the industry, really. Even though you've been in it since 14 part-time, you've really grown. Tell me a little bit about your growth.
Yeah, so I would say wildly successful is very kind. I would say I see there's a lot of people that I try and network with and study and learn from. And it always amazes me what different people are able to do in this industry and how they've done it. And I sit there and I think, wow, like if they can do it, I can do it too. I just have to figure out what they're doing and how they're doing it. But what I would say too is I've seen there's a lot of different ways to make money in the industry. And different people come into the industry with different backgrounds. They focus on different sectors. So I think everybody's journey is interesting to watch. But we kind of got into it. I was leaving commercial lending. I was a banker in South Bend, Indiana, near Notre Dame, and worked for a community bank called First Source Bank, did commercial lending, and decided I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial. So I moved my family to Orlando, Florida to go run a lawn care landscape irrigation business. And that was a big change. And one of the conditions that I made with my wife is she could go back to Michigan as often as she wanted to. And so that was the deal. So when she started going back 3 weeks at a time every 2 months, it didn't seem like it made much sense for me to take the whole house when it could have rental value. So I would fly up and go visit mid-stay when they're up there 3 weeks at a time. But the rest of the time I'd go live at the shop. And so, we had a toilet there and a sofa, and I had a hose out of the back of the shop up over a tree. And so, I could take a shower outside, and I had a place to sleep on the sofa and internet and everything I needed. So we'd rent the house out for 3 weeks at a time every 2 months. And it kind of opened my eyes to, hey, this thing can work. So started studying different people in the industry, understanding the different aspects of it, and started converting some long-term rentals to short-term rentals. And at the time, I didn't really know the terms vacation rental. It was just Airbnb. So I was one of those Airbnb STR/STD, as some people in the industry feel, people that entered that way. And as we've entered, obviously, it's been fun to get to know the bigger part of the industry, the professional management side, which is ultimately important for where the industry needs to go.
So let's talk about something. And this is one of the main reasons I wanted to interview you. You do unique stays. Tell me about your tree houses. I want to know about the tree houses.
So again, I got into it converting a few long-term rentals to short-term rentals, and pretty quickly realized that while the returns were okay, the most exciting parts of the industry were either manage bigger inventory in big markets, which when I was running the other business, I wasn't really focused on growing the property management side. I was just looking at it from a investment return perspective. And I was interested in creating inventory that I would enjoy. My wife and I and our kids are all pretty active. We like doing different outdoor stuff. And Chattanooga was a market we really enjoyed visiting. And I saw some inspiring inventory there, specifically treetop hideaways and some other units that I thought were really neat with this treehouse concept. And this was back in 2017 or so. So I started making a lot of trips to Chattanooga, trying to figure out where would be the best place to build and everything else. And so I think 2018, I bought some land, had a lot of hurdles. It's not easy to do non-conventional construction. Some places it's easier than others, certainly more rural areas in certain counties. But then you have the challenges of infrastructure, utilities, site development. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I didn't have specifically a construction background. I'd done some rehabs and some rentals and some flips, but new construction, non-conventional development, it's a different ballgame. So ran into a number of hurdles that ultimately made it take much longer and cost more than I ever could have imagined. But we're about 75% done with about a $4 million project that we refer to as Treetop Escapes in Wildwood, Georgia, about 20 minutes outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
So the name of your company is Unique Stay. So I think that's cool. One of the things I love about your philosophy, and one of the things that I was really excited to share with people is that, well, one of the things you quoted, you were like, tired of lackluster returns. You wanted to create a company that would deliver superior return on investment, basically. And I think that is a big mission in and of itself. You guys have to understand that Fred is very humble. He really is. But he has like 45 team members now. He's really grown his business. I'm sure your business background in investment in banking has been very helpful with that. Let me ask you this. What advice would you give to people who are just starting out or people who want to grow their business? What do you think is the best piece of advice you can give people?
To be clear, we only manage about 100 properties, so we don't manage that many, but we do have ownership in about half of those. And so, I got into it more from the real estate investment side first. And then I realized, like, okay, I didn't realize I got into the hospitality industry. So then it's like, okay, I've got to learn this hospitality game. And we've also got a construction company that we build a lot of our own inventory or do our own remodels, et cetera. But what I would say is I started to grow the business part-time because I was running another business full-time. And so that's a unique challenge. I was living in Florida and trying to grow the business in Tennessee primarily. So that creates some unique challenges and opportunities. And I think two things. One is really focus on building the right team and working to get the right people in the right seats with company culture. And those things didn't come naturally to me. I'm a numbers guy. I analyze things really deeply and thoroughly. But the people side is an area that I've had to develop a lot more. But I think in all areas, I think some of the most important thing is finding good mentors. So one of the things that we've always done, and I think is very important, is I go to as many conferences as I can. I've started to send a lot of our team members to more conferences. And there's different conferences and there's different groups of people in the space. So I started out going to the VRMA conferences, the DARM conferences, where you find the professional property managers and you get to meet great people, whether they're guys like Steve Milo that have built large operations or people like Robin and Heather from Moving Mountains or Jane from Jane's Cottages in Canada. And that kind of like opens your mind to the potential of the industry because I came from a small little farming community and I'm trying to figure out how to add enough value to get people to pay $300 a night. And they're selling $10,000 a night stays. And so it makes you realize like the world's much bigger than you think. And then it's been fun to meet like really smart, intelligent minds like Shahar with Design VR.
Oh, yes. Love him.
Yeah, yeah. And more local guys like CJ Stam with Southern Comfort and LEJ. His business is more similar to mine. And so it's really great to meet these different people, network with them, see how they're building their businesses, what they're focusing on, where they think value creation is, what their metrics are, all of those types of things.
So it's really telling that you said just a few minutes ago, well, I only have 100 properties, but the average in this industry is 75. So you're above average to start with. Not only that, but you've grown really quickly. And I think the fact that you're saying, okay, so mentorship has been really important to you. Are you willing to mentor other people into doing what you've done the way that you started it?
Yeah, absolutely. You learn different things from different people. When we first got in, I brought in Simon Lehman, who I had no idea what a big name he was. And it was at the time, a very expensive move to bring him in. But there's so many different people in this space and talking to people from C2G advisors and other people that have podcasts in the industry like Michael Elefante or Jeremy Worden, the Alex and Annie podcast, your podcast, of course, too, I like to listen to. And I met you at a conference most recently. And so I think when you meet people, you don't even understand how those relationships are going to add value down the road. And you meet people that introduce you to other people, that introduce you to other people. And it's amazing the synergies and the opportunities that can come from that. And I'm getting older all the time. Somebody guessed I was 52 right before the conference.
Did you set yourself up for that? Or did they just come up? Or did you ask?
People start talking sometimes and they start talking about their generation versus mine. And it's like, well, wait a minute, what? Because I feel like we're the same age, So I'll be like, I'll ask them how old they are. And then they say a number. And then I ask them how old they think I am. And they think that I'm old enough to be their father.
And you're like their peer. Don't do that. That's just, you're setting, okay, this is a what not to do. This is one of the set yourself up for failure. You do comport yourself very well. You're a very intelligent person, number one, and what comes out of your mouth has value. I know from speaking to you. I mean, I've spent a long time talking to you the first time we met because I was like, wow, this guy's really intelligent. You have a really interesting view on running your company. You seem to me like someone, when I spoke to you, that has taken a piece here that I could use, a piece here that I could use, a piece here that I could use. You've kind of like studied a business model. And then you've said, okay, these pieces fit me. Let me put that together. And it is unique. You are unique in the way that you do business. And I think that the people that listen to this podcast are going to be interested in contacting you to talk to you about it because you've taken that knowledge and you've absorbed it from some of the giants in the industry, Fred, and you've grown your company.
There's no original ideas. I mean, there are original ideas, but it's a lot easier to say, hey, what's working and who's doing it well. And there's things that amaze me all the time because there's philosophies or strategies that it's like, this is the right way to go. And then I'll see somebody in the industry who's doing the exact opposite and being highly successful. And I'm like, well, I don't think they're doing things right, but yet they are very successful. So if they are doing something wrong and they're still successful, either everybody else is wrong or there's other factors that are creating their success. So I think it's really, especially the younger you are or the more ambitious you are, the more you can study and network and learn. And particularly, it's really hard to get in front of certain people. There was somebody that said hi to me at the last conference, and they've never said hi to me. I've always worked hard to get in front of them. I think they only came and said hi to me because I was talking to you and they really wanted to see you. But I think the point is like, if there is somebody that you want to get to know, think about what it is that they do or need and try and find ways to give to them until they're like, wait a minute, why is this person giving me something? And then what they'll want to do naturally is reciprocate. And so I'm tall, so people notice me at conferences because I'm tall, but I don't want them to notice me because I'm tall. I want them to notice me for other reasons.
Well, can I just tell you that what you just said, it was a beautiful thing, guys. If you didn't notice, he didn't say, Lynell, why don't you introduce me to people because you know people? What he just said is give to these people that you want to get to know better, and eventually they'll notice you. I will say this, our industry is very unique in that people do want to help people. The most successful people I know are almost always willing to sit down and talk with someone and help them start because you did say like there's no wrong way to do things. You really backed it up with what you said. One of those things is that people in different areas do business differently. People like Steve at Casago, people like Steve at V-Trips, people like Steve Karen at iTrip. Their business model is totally different. So pick someone that you want to be like. Now, your tree houses, I can't wait to come see. I'm going to do that in the next year, God willing, and the creek don't rise kind of thing. I'd love to come and see how you do that because I think that we move in directions like I bought a piece of land and I'm thinking, what would that piece of land be great for? I bought it because it was the right thing to do at the time. And I'm not a developer. You've really done development now by yourself. You've done this contracting piece. Tell me the secrets to how, or even if it's not a secret, tell me how you got into the contracting part of being able to do that.
I mean, I think you just got to look at each part of whatever you're doing as separate pieces of business. So like if you want to be in arbitrage and you want to be one of those STR guys, listen to people like Sean Rocky G from Airbnb Automated and others like that. If you want to be in professional property management, go to the VRMA conferences and meet as many professional property managers as you can and think about what niche you want to be in. If you want to be like the top of the food chain, like moving mountains, you're going to have to focus highly on experience and company culture, like, Robin and Heather Cragen have done very successfully. There's certainly a lot of different business models out there. And so for us, it's like, okay, we've got to look at them in different buckets. So we have scorecards and KPIs where we look at the important metrics that matter for the investment side of the properties that we own. But at the same time, we have to pay a property management fee to our management company that's a market rate. Because if we don't, we can't properly analyze our return. So many of these people, like they don't think about the cost of management. They're like, I'm making money. It's like, well, where are you making money? Are you making money managing real estate or investing in real estate? So we've got the management company, we've got the investment entities that own the real estate. And then because we're doing unique construction, we decided we were going to bring the construction in-house. So we've got the treetops project we're finishing up. We have one new construction and one remodel project over in Saluda, North Carolina. And whether you come over and see what we're doing or I come and see your property, I'm looking forward to doing both, hopefully. But yeah, it's you kind of got to look at them as separate businesses. And then for me, I've got really good team, and a number of those team members are vested. So I've got a guy that's vested in the management company, and I got a guy that's vested in the construction company. And Tyler and Ron both do a great job with those things. And understanding your numbers is very important. Whether you outsource that, I think having good financials is very difficult to do in this industry. It's quite complex. And whether you bring it in-house or you look for software solutions or you outsource it, whatever you do, you just need to make sure that you know where you're at with your numbers.
I think that's incredibly important. I do. And I think that is underrated. I did a session at the women's conference on learning your P&L. Basically, well, it was hidden inside an EBITDA. I don't remember if we called it EBITDA. We have to teach people how to get to their EBITDA and what they need to do. So it's an interesting thing. I absolutely agree. One of the things, guys, so if you're looking for someone who knows a lot, look at what Fred has done here, guys. He has taken his business and he's put it into segments. And a lot of us in the vacation rental industry, it was a huge deal when we brought our linens in-house. You remember that, guys, how difficult it was to figure out, number one, the software we needed to make it work. And number two, the physical location of our laundries and how to get from A to Z. I know that my sister at Hobbs Realty, she just brought those in a couple of years ago. She just bought a box truck at the end of the year because of tax and because it's the right time to buy, of course, to deliver those. So I think that when you focus on these individual projects, like you were talking about, the individual parts of your business, I think having mentors and having people to tell you how they did it is important. So I think that people will be interested in talking to you, Fred, about the construction you brought inside.
If I could just say too, I think depending on where you're at in your journey, different size companies and depending on your specific company, and you're going to have different challenges. So like sometimes it's software challenges and you need some people that you feel really have implemented software well in their business. Other times it's accounting issues. Other times it's operational issues. For us right now, one of the pieces that I think we're trying to figure out and I look up to and I'm trying to network more is the whole social media piece, particularly for these curated, special design communities. There's people like Michael Travel and Journey Moore and Ben Wolf from Stayonera. I'm trying to network more and learn all these social media influencers. And it's much more complicated than I ever imagined. And I never thought I would ever want to just spend $10,000 a month on social media, but they're convincing me that it's a good idea. So
there's a lot of power there. There certainly is a lot of power.
Then there's people like Ben Wolf, who's creating these incredible communities, and Zach from Spontaneous that are starting to document some of these types of places. And it's like, okay, if I can learn what I need to learn from these guys and apply what they've learned to what I'm doing. And there's probably some things we can learn from each other, but there's a lot more I can learn from them than they can learn from me. So I have to figure out ways to make them want to spend time talking with me.
Built by property managers for property managers. Streamline is a powerful software that gives managers enterprise-level capabilities to drive more revenue and improve operational efficiency. Migrating to Streamline allows property managers to gain functionality while reducing the need for multiple vendors, improving flow by logging into a single system and reducing redundant technology costs. With Streamline, property managers achieve revenue lifts by leveraging our fully fledged communication center, reservations quoting system, revenue management tools, homeowner acquisition CRM, and powerful direct OTA connections. Streamline also has industry-leading trust accounting and report capabilities to give you clarity in an overall company performance. Learn more about Streamline Vacation Rental Software at streamlinevrs.com.
The other thing you have to figure out with that when it comes to social media is your style. You think about the people that are wildly successful on social media, and a lot of times they're completely different. Some have these well-curated programs and others just do on the fly. They're very casual. So I think that that's important, especially if you're doing it for communities.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about podcasts. I'm just saying like promoting videos and photos and thinking about if you're going to brand it as a single location or multiple location or single concept and what you want your brand to stand for. And there's a lot of details. I mean, when you're looking at stuff on Instagram, your impression is solely based on what you see. And so like every detail matters. And what I've learned is I've got a lot more to learn to get to where I want to go.
So what I was saying is what I meant, and I was coming from a different point of view, is that people like Ginger Harrelson, she's wildly successful on social media, and what she is sharing is different than maybe
What's happening in Orange Beach and what's happening Gulf Shores, 50,000 followers on her Facebook groups.
exactly. And it's because she's interesting. Ginger
Right.
is phenomenally interesting. She's interesting to talk to, and she shares herself personally. You know, she puts herself out there for her company, and people look at her and she seems like on social media, like this glamorous lifestyle. But I'm going to tell you, she's like moving mountains when you look at beach ball movie.
Yeah, she's hardworking. That little Grinch theme
Smart,
that they had
kind.
going on, I think
Yeah,
I think she's the one under that Grinch costume. I'm pretty sure, but I don't know.
I think you're right. I do think you're right. But I just think about the different ways that people do things, and they're at the heart, they're just such nice people, Fred, you know, genuine.
That's what I've been really appreciative too. Like coming into this industry, I used to be like, I can't tell people what's working and what's not because they might copy me or they might come compete with me. And what you realize is like this industry, everybody has a moat of protection around their own local market. Yeah, somebody else can come and compete, but they can get data from AirDNA, they can get data from other places. So I think it's really neat and fun to network with people that are outside of your market because it's so easy to do and there's so little risk and you learn so much. And like you said, they're all very kind. And most everybody I've met has been very reciprocal. If you're open and honest and transparent and, they reciprocate.
There's a biblical concept, and it's called standing on shoulders. It's a Hebrew saying. But what it talks about is people that are standing next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, supporting each other. And I think that our vacation rental industry is like that. And I do believe that we have the kindest, most wonderful people. I want you to tell me your favorite guest story.
One thing I'll say before we transition, I had a Jewish partner. And there's a saying that anytime a Jewish person makes money, 5 other people behind them also make money.
Oh, may it be.
They work together very well in teams. And so, anyways, that's just my experience. So I tease Shahar about that sometimes, but I'll transition to answer that question too. But, Steve Milo, I remember I was dealing with a big decision, outsourcing or bringing the accounting in-house. And I said, Steve, can I talk to your finance guy? And he gave me the name and number for CFO, COO, and opened up the door for that connection. And I spent about an hour just talking through, and I'm a peon, right? Like he's a titan, I'm a peon. And for him to open that door and let me talk to a key guy in his company to get some insight as to what I need to think about if I want to scale, it was, very valuable for me. So, but most interesting story, again, I came from I was 100% Airbnb, didn't have property management software, didn't understand vacation rentals. It was just short-term rentals. So when we left Florida, 3 weeks at a time, we rent the whole house. And we've got 6 kids now. At the time, it was a 3-bedroom house and we had 4 kids. So with 4 kids in a 3-bedroom house, we'd have family that came and visited all the time. So we maintained a guest bedroom. So we had all the kids in one bedroom, and then we had our bedroom, and then we had a guest bedroom. And it didn't make sense to leave that guest bedroom empty when we were home because it would rent for $30 a night. And we homeschooled our kids and wanted them to have more social interaction and get to know. We didn't view strangers as scary. So we rented out a room of our house while we lived there with 4 kids. And you have to disclose that. And people that don't like kids aren't going to stay with you. But we had one of the founding 3 members of Pulte Homes. Pulte is like the 2nd largest home builder in the country. One of the founding members in 1970. Bill Pulte was the founder. And then he had 2 other founders. He was like the finance guy. He had somebody that did the operations of the construction. And then he had someone that did marketing and sales. And so the 3 of them were the founders of Pulte Homes. And one of the founders lived around the corner from us in Longwood, Florida. And his wife passed away. And when she died, he got lonely. And so his kids are like, Dad, how you doing? He's like, I'm fine, except for in the evening. And he saw, this is an 80-year-old guy, saw an ad for Airbnb. He's like, well, I can do that and I won't be by myself. So he would rent out his house on Airbnb, while he was there. So he wasn't a lonely guy in the evenings. And then he was going to play these golf tournaments. So he was heading out to California. And 3 days before he left, Bill Pulte died in Detroit. So one of his co-founders. So instead of going to the golf tournament, he needed to go to the funeral, but he had already rented out his house and he was heading to the funeral 2 days later than when his house rented. So he booked a night at our room in our house, and he came up in this like old Buick hobbling up with a cane. And my wife said, "Hey, you got to come look at this guy." So I looked at him and he was like barely making it to the door. He stayed with us for 2 nights. And each night I talked with him from 9:30 till about midnight, 2 nights ago. And just the stories, he told me, he's like, at one time, CEOs didn't make as much back then, but he said we had 10 market presidents that were making more than the CEO of GM at the time when they went public in 1978. So whether it's people at conferences or whether you're crazy enough to open up your home to share it with other people, whether it's guests or travelers or hosts or property managers, it's just really fun. It's a really fun industry to be in.
It is a fun industry. It truly is. Let me ask you one more thing before we go. Tell me your greatest challenge, your pain point right now.
I would say what we're working on figuring out is all things marketing and sales. So when I say marketing and sales, you've got, say, owner acquisition marketing, which is postcards, social media, cold calling, different strategies to get in front of owners and build credibility and make them want to have you manage their properties if you're trying to grow your property management business. And the other side is guest acquisition. And I've seen some companies just say, we'll do all channel bookings and do fine. But most people in the industry feel that building your direct bookings, it has value. So right now we're trying to figure out how to become more efficient in the dollars that we spend on owner acquisition. We measure that, whether it's right or wrong. We've got a very methodical way we measure that, and we're improving, but we've got a long ways to go in terms of converting dollars we invest into marketing into, a good return with owner acquisition. So that's half the focus. The other part that we're just getting started with is focusing on, our direct bookings have gone from 0 to 18%. And I think we can get them to 25 or 30. I know some companies say 60 to 100%, which is great, but we're primarily focused on the inventory that we own in terms of social media and particularly these unique stays. So we're very early in that, and not early adopter, just early in our journey to figure that out. And I think our goal is to say, hey, who do we need to get in the train with to be successful in that journey of guest acquisition, particularly through social media, is our main strategy we're pursuing.
So let me say this to you. You're in North Carolina. I'm in North Carolina. You're going to come see me, hopefully, like the first week in February.
Yeah, I'm going to bring all my kids too.
Okay, you do. I have enough room for them all to have in the kids' room. That's fine. There's like bunk beds built in. But I will take you to a market here where 99% is direct acquisition, directly without using OTAs. They use Streamline, but they have that percentage, and we'll have dinner and we'll sit down to the table with the owners and we'll hang out and play that. I'm going to send you a link to my Calendly, and you set up a time and we'll get together for that. And we'll talk to you about that piece. You said that you wouldn't mind being a mentor for people who are coming in. Your business model is very similar to one of my friends, one of my very good friends in South Carolina. She built her business 100% OTAs, not necessarily Airbnb, but OTA, including that. And it's a good model. And a lot of people, it's the way they get in the industry. If somebody wants to contact you about anything, whether it's the construction of the tree houses, which I am fascinated with, and I'm going to come see. I love where you are in the Chattanooga area, Saluda, those areas, some of the most beautiful places on the East Coast, in my opinion. In the East. I mean, it's not really on the coast, but it's in the East. And so how would they reach you if they wanted to contact you, Fred?
Yeah. So if anybody can find me on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and feel free to message me or connect with me there. I would love to make that connection. If you want to get in touch directly, just message me through there and I can give you my cell number and you can text or call. We can set up a time. I set up 1 to 2 calls a week with people I see ads on social media for this or that, whether it's marketing or valuing a business or selling a business or, whatever things that interest me. And I'll even take calls from competitors. And just because in those conversations, we learn stuff. So I love to chat with people about ideas. A software company reached out to me that they're working on a new software. It's Host Genius / I think they're going to rename as Host Partners. Different than all the other PMSs and where they're going. It's not going to be a good fit for me probably right now, but it's still interesting to talk and network. So absolutely feel free to reach out and look forward to meeting everybody and anybody. So.
Okay, guys. So his last name is spelled Boothby. I'll make sure that we're linked on LinkedIn. If you can't find him directly, you can find him through me or however it works. Fred, thank you. Thank you for being just such a great, open, smart business person and willing to share your knowledge with everybody else. I appreciate it.
I'm glad I saw you talking to someone I know at the conference. So it was easy to butt in, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
I look forward to meeting your family. I do very much. All right. Thank you so much.
This episode of How We Grow is brought to you by Streamline. To find out more about how Streamline can help grow your vacation rental business, visit streamlinevrs.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.